Hello, Capvela. Welcome to the
Hey,
first episode of Beyond the Pivot. I hope you are as excited as me when start doing this venture together.
absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. Our first episode, and looking forward to more, actually. So this is pretty exciting, and yeah, looking forward to the conversation.
Well, the reason why we're here is because I'm from Czech Republic, you are from Zambia, and I thought that neither of our country compatriots or citizens know much about the other one. So
Hmm.
let's change it with this podcast, and let's help Europeans to learn more about African startups and entrepreneurship ecosystem, and vice versa. And for that, we prepared like two main parts for every podcast. One is like what's new, what hit us in the nose the past week, and then talking about certain
Yeah.
topic. So, Capella, what was the thing that sparked your eye last week or the last time you read something interesting?
Absolutely. I was thinking about that. Actually, I forgot that we have that part in our episodes that we intend to include where we talk about news in our ecosystems and or in our countries or Africa at large. Yeah, but last week when I was just thinking about it, I think we're in an interesting position. My team and I just got some confirmation that we will be implementing an incubator for mining tech startups. So that was pretty exciting. And why is that exciting for us? So this is part of a UNDP program, and
Mhm.
UNDP currently have been strategically focusing on catalyzing innovation and entrepreneurship across Africa. And so they have an approach or a strategic approach where they are implementing hubs across Africa, and they're calling them the Timbuktu hubs. So each selected country where the hub is placed has got a thematic sector that they are targeting. So, for example, I can just pull some quick facts for you. So, for Zambia, we're implementing the MineTech incubator. Kigali is doing health tech. Cape Town is doing an incubator for creatives. Lagos is doing fintech. We have Ghana, Accra, who will be doing agri-tech. Casablanca, which is in Morocco, they're doing smart cities. We have Dakar tourism, Cairo logistics, Addis Ababa, who are doing that's Ethiopia, they're doing manufacturing. Nairobi are focusing more on climate smart technologies. So it's pretty exciting. It's an Africa initiative, and all of this targets to at least through the cycle, which is a 10-year period. UNDP and other partners are seeking to at least raise $1 billion in investment that could potentially go to these startups, and they're targeting 10,000 startups through its implementation. So super exciting stuff for us, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And that's some exciting news I thought I could share with you guys.
It's pretty cool. So, like, what's the target for Zambia out of the 10,000 startups? Do you have like 20 of them have to be MineTech or 200 or, and how do you then value if that startup is worth the investment or not? And how do you work with them? Personally, do
Absolutely.
you like select them or how do you do that?
Brilliant. Great question. So, the way the hub or incubator is structured, so the mining tech startups are not necessarily supposed to be from Zambia only. Okay. Maybe some background why Zambia exactly? We're one of the largest mining countries in Africa. So, it was almost like a no brainer that Zambia was selected to lead mining tech. Actually, Southern Africa leads a majority of the mining activities that get to happen in Africa. So, from Congo, your Zambia, Botswana, Namibia all the way to South Africa. So it was a no-brainer that Zambia was leading mining tech. But in terms of the way the program is run, we are focusing on tech startups across Africa. So each
Mhm.
one of these Timbuktu hubs or accelerators happening across the continent, like Kigali, which focuses on health tech, or health tech startups across Africa will be hosted in Kigali, and they have to go through that incubator. Yes, we're part of the selection process. Basically, we are looking at early stage startups. So basically, we'll be looking for proof of concept. At least they've gone past a prototype or they've launched a product in the market. I think that shows us that there is some level of commitment from the founders. And yeah, we just get to provide that extra support, technical support to say, hey, this is how you can work on your business model. Here's how you can refine this and connect them to the necessary resources that we have in our ecosystems. So that's basically the
Yeah.
approach that we're taking with the selection.
I like that you will be concentrating people with like minds in one place. So if there is somebody from, Kenya, then Morocco, and then Zambia, all trying to figure out how to do mining better, they will all meet in
Yeah,
Lusaka, and can kind of like bounce the ideas from them, with your help with one
Absolutely.
specialization, so I like that concept of it a lot. When do you think you're guys gonna have like the first results, first
So
selection of the company that will come to Lusaka?
we're already behind time, but we're looking at possibly having this. Should be end of October. We should be putting out calls for applications. Other hubs are already way ahead of us. At the end of October this year, we should be launching. And one beautiful thing is we are planning an in-person event called the Mining Tech Summit. So basically, we want to invite all great minds in the mining space, tech enthusiasts, just be in one space and be part of that summit. So pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, it's I
And
love
then,
when people are
yeah,
gathering like that, because you never know what's gonna happen. Essentially, like there is certain
absolutely.
promise,
Maybe
but
who
then
knows? We
something's gonna
could see
happen.
you. Maybe
Yeah,
you
maybe.
might show up. We never know.
Exactly. Oh, I don't know if I will be the one in the mining there, but maybe in Kigali or somewhere else too. And
I hear you. And how's it been on your end? Any news
oh yeah, yeah.
from Europe,
So,
Czech Republic?
sorry, I was
I'll
like
be
too
happy to
excited
hear about
about
that.
this, and I completely forgot to say something about what's happening on our end here. Well, what sparked my eye is that the story of more like entertainment and sports business. There's this company from Czech Republic in Slovakia. One founder is Czech, second is Slovak, and they started 8 years ago, and they had a vision that they will do kind of like Champions League of football, but in a MMA.
Mm,
Like kind of create the best
mm,
organization in Europe and Middle East for MMA. They started in a small little place in Prague. Their first tournament was in a sports event place for 2,000 people, and in those 8 years, they managed to create 2 weeks ago world record in attendance for MMA event of the world. They sold out this arena in Frankfurt in Germany, for 59,000 people. And why
are you
it's not just about,
serious?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's not just they did that, but I love that attitude about it. Like they're saying is better to aim for the stars and miss than aim for a pile of
Mm,
manure and hit. So
mm,
I like that they kind of are not afraid to dream big. Kind of
mm,
it's something that's not really common in Czech Republic. Everybody's kind of like afraid. I'm the king of the pond over here, about to go to the ocean, and I like they
mm,
are
mm.
kind of challenging that attitude. You don't have to be afraid to dream big. Try to go for your dreams, and maybe you will fail, but you will learn from it definitely. You will become a better person in the end by learning
I hear
through
you.
those experiences. So that was
And
very
maybe
exciting
as
to me.
I like that concept, and as a way of introduction, are we able to share with our audience what could be or what is our big audacious goal with what we're trying to do with the Beyond the podcast? Would you mention
Sure,
what you think is that big goal that we're trying so that everybody can
sure.
just also appreciate?
There is two things for me. One big goal is that I will learn as much as I can about talking with you, maybe having guests about what is happening in Africa, like about this incubators. Like I would never learn
Yeah,
about it anyway. There will be no news to me if you wouldn't tell me right now. So
yeah,
that's one goal, to kind of be ahead of the curve and knowing about these opportunities. Maybe like become engaged with one of those incubators myself down the line. Who knows? And a second big audacious goal is to kind of become like fill this education gap or fill this information gap of connecting Africa to Europe in different ways than just talking
yeah.
about immigration or like
Mm,
something bad happening, because there is a bunch of positive stuff that is happening and not that many people know about it. The whole Western world, United States, Europe, just thinks we need to pump money there through aid. And I don't think that's the case based on what I learned. So I don't know how to quantify this big audacious goal, but like become
yeah,
that respected information hub of connecting Europe and Africa.
it's
What about
beautiful.
you?
I love
What's
it.
your how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, we've had the conversation before, and I think it's really aligned with what you just mentioned. I think there's a lots of information, a huge information gap between Africa and Europe and many other countries, actually. And so people are very skeptical, people are afraid, people don't know where to begin, where to start. And this is from the business perspective. I know even in other areas that exists, right? These
Yeah.
knowledge gaps. And so for me, what's really exciting and the big goal with what we're trying to do is really to fill in that knowledge gap. I think that's the biggest thing that I'm seeing. I hope that, well, I don't hope, we are planning on ensuring that we also bring a lot more experts on the podcast so that they can even provide more expert, very specific information around startups in Africa, in Europe, and investment as well. So that for me is really exciting. And I think that's what we're aiming for. This is not a podcast for just Zambia and the Czech Republic, but basically we're aiming for Africa, Europe, and the world really to just learn about the different ecosystems in Africa and what's going on in Europe. So for me, that's pretty exciting and cool. Yeah, I love it.
So in your experience, talking with a bunch of experts and doing a lot of entrepreneurship programs, is there
Yeah.
countries that are more open to the concept of not just working with Africa in terms of mining, like you said, or like, let's
Yeah.
help with the aid, but more seeing it as an opportunity to collaborate together on like startups or entrepreneurship projects and so on. Is there, in your
Yeah.
opinion, somebody who is ahead of the curve?
That is a great question. I mean, one thing that many partners, investors, and organizations are realizing or seeing is that Africa is a growing market. Africa is a growing market. Of course, there's bias. There's a bias towards certain countries in Africa that they get to target, but we are collectively a population of 1 billion, and that's a large market. There have been initiatives, before I get to your question, there have been initiatives already, for example, with the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, where we have this one trade area that connects all the African countries, right? So that creates so much opportunities for anyone who wants to work in Africa from a business standpoint or an investment standpoint. So quite a number from a development organization, like I mentioned, UNDP would be an example. There was just another project. Surprisingly, it's also UNDP. I think we were chatting the time I was in Japan, and the focus of that particular program is we're working on three specific countries. We have South Africa, Angola, and Zambia, and we're connecting them to Japanese investors. Okay, the program is called the Meet the Toshikas program, and Toshikas basically in Japanese means investors, right? So you can see that Japan is interested in Africa. They want to see more collaboration between the countries in Africa and Japan, and they want to do that through working with startups. Okay, I think this concept of aid, just giving out money and grants, I don't think is sustainable and hasn't helped Africa in any way. And if we can collaborate by creating more market value, building products and businesses, and each of us extract value from that, I think that's more sustainable from a financial standpoint and economic standpoint as well. So there is definitely interest from multiple partners across the world to work in Africa. The only challenge again is where do we start, right? And if I can maybe even give some insight to this entrepreneurship in Zambia, everyone wants to figure out what's in Zambia right now. Where do I start? If I'm an investor, if I'm a startup, I wanted to launch a startup in Zambia, where exactly do I begin? Right? So currently uh, we have quite a lot of infrastructure that we're building to just support and ensure that startups can thrive. For those that do not, I just realized, Martin, I didn't even introduce myself for anyone that
Go
might.
ahead.
You know what I mean? Like we just took it for
It's the
granted that
first
everybody
episode,
knows what we
we are
do.
learning.
Right?
We are learning as we go.
I know. Yeah, but absolutely. So I manage growth, where I'm the manager for growth and partnerships at as an entrepreneurship support organization called BongoHive. Previously, I was the manager for entrepreneurship, so designing programs where we work with entrepreneurs and startups at three different stages of development. That's ideation, validation, and growth stages, right? So BongoHive itself has been in existence for 13 years, was the first actually incubation hub in Zambia. So anyway, why do I mention all of that? Because there are kits for you to create an enabling environment for startups, and I'm speaking to Zambia, and this is across any other country anyway. You have to ensure that there is a necessary infrastructure that supports their growth, okay? From a regulation standpoint, from a finance standpoint, incubators as well, business support services, all of these things have to be in place. Currently, I think we are in a good place as a country. We have one of the fastest registration processes for businesses with our PACRA, which is the Patents and Company Registration Agency. I think within a day, you should have a day or two, you should have your business registration certificates. So that's pretty fast in comparison to other countries across the continent. Bongo Hive supported the setup of the first business angel network in Zambia called the Zambia Business Angel Network. So just a network of high net worth individuals that seek to work with startups. That was non-existent, but we did see the need for those interested in investing and supporting businesses in Zambia to have a platform and one space where their voice can be heard and also facilitate investments with the businesses. Yeah, so all of these infrastructure, we are currently working on the Startup Act. So basically a regulatory framework that guides how exactly to regulate startups. We don't think it has to be the same with the general businesses like the standard micro, small and medium enterprises. The startups growth trajectory is totally different from that of an SME. We always like to give the example your Instagram, right? With 30 million users, they were at just about less than 20 employees, right? But imagine if I'm an SME and I'm selling bread and I need 30 million customers. Imagine the logistics and everything that I have to put in place. So their growth trajectories are totally different, and we have been pushing for a framework that would regulate them differently. Even from a tax perspective, we want to make it easier for entrepreneurs in the country to really build businesses that thrive and view Africa as a whole market. So that's where we are. I hope I didn't go on a tangent, but that's an overview of where we are as Zambia. Yeah.
Well, today I learned that there is something called like European Startup Agency or Alliance. That they are kind of compile of 15 hubs under or 18 hubs under Ministry of Industries of different countries.
Mm.
They are trying to like push for better conditions, law, and as such when it comes to startups, because startups, like you said, are different than like regular SMEs. So is there something like
Yep.
that in maybe Zambia connecting to Botswana, kind of like African Startup Alliance that tries to kind of
Mm.
unify like what are the good standards for regulations, maybe like employee stacks, maybe money markets, how to find investors, kind of the for a guy from outside, so it will be easier for me. So if the country is in the alliance, maybe they will take it more seriously than if they are not, kind of thing.
That's beautiful. I like that concept. So sorry about that. I like that concept. Really, what I see is the first touch point that we try to create for startups is the incubators, right? So
Hmm.
that's where we want to see them thrive, where we want to provide as much support for them as possible. So what we have currently for the continent itself is what's called AfriLabs, okay?
Hmm.
So AfriLabs is a network of hubs across the continent, and we should be currently at about 600 members, right?
That's a
So
lot of
that's a
that's a
great
lot of
place.
members. Sorry, like I was astonished by the number.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. So these are hubs across the entire continent. And so this is one voice of hubs that get to come together and support startups and have one voice through that particular channel on how to support startups. Okay.
Mhm.
And again, I have to remind everybody, Africa is not one country. We are lots of countries, 52 countries. Each country is at different stages of development. And so in as much as we're a collective of hubs, some of the hubs are at different stages of development in terms of their ecosystem. For us as well, we have what's called the Southern Africa Innovation Collective, SAIC, where BongoHive is chairing that particular network. So it's for Southern Africa. And what we try to do there is just to ensure that we are creating the necessary support needed for innovation to thrive in the Southern African region. So even there, you can see that there's this collaboration between government. So in Zambia, there's the government agency called the National Technology Business Center that we collaborate with on that. And the equivalent of a National Technology Business Center in South Africa, in Tanzania. By the way, it's weird that Tanzania is also part of Southern Africa when they also play a part in East Africa.
They
Yeah,
know
but
how
we're not
to
talking
join
about
groups.
right? They're doing a great job. But so the equivalent of a national agency from a government perspective and hubs are collaborating to just ensure that there's that collaboration for us to create a thriving environment for startups. So
Mhm.
that's something that I could point to
Mhm,
what you
mhm.
just mentioned,
So
Martin.
that's where
Yeah.
we would look first. Like, let's say I would do Zambia, or I would be interested in going to Africa to like find
Yeah.
my investments there. Then I would be looking for like what's the stability of the country. So I would find Zambia, and then I would go
Mm.
into this like network of incubation hubs, those 600, and see if you are there or not. That's the way
We
to
are
go,
there.
or I know you are there, but that's the way to go. Or would you maybe take a different approach of finding the opportunities from the outside in, or how would you do it?
Definitely, political stability is one key factor, of course. So Zambia, we have our seventh president. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's Kenneth Kaunda Chiluba. Yeah, it should be about seventh president with four, if not five, political parties. And all of the transitions that we've had have been very peaceful, right? So that speaks to political stability. You do not want to be in a, well, it would be challenging, not that you don't want to be there, but it would be challenging for you to operate in a country that's quite politically unstable. And we know some of these countries, right,
Yeah.
that are politically unstable. When you talk about the approach to through hubs,
Hmm.
I think that hubs play a key role. I remember when I was building my first startup, just helping the entrepreneur just build out a journey map for how exactly they intend to build their organization and linking them to the necessary resources. So if I was looking for pipeline, a hub would be the best place because I think they will have startups, businesses that have somehow gone through some level of training and understand the core fundamentals of building a business and have been set up almost with the opportunity for scale and growth. So hubs are great for pipeline. If you're looking for investment, reach out to any hubs that might be in the country that you intend to get into. That would definitely be something I would be looking at.
What would you say are the like trenches of investment? Do I imagine like a seed round to be a certain number, usually, and then pre-seed, like pre-seed,
Mm.
seed A, seed B. Like, is it just like in America, Europe, you need hundreds of thousands of dollars for each, or is it just you can
Mm.
rock and roll with very little in the beginning?
Yeah, great question. We have a huge funding gap for pre-seed and seed stage startups, which is massive. So for those at ideation, just trying to build out prototypes and test the market, there it's even a lot more challenging. They have almost zero to no traction to show for. Yeah, that becomes difficult for them to raise finance, even something as low as 10,000, 20,000 US dollars. But it even becomes a lot more apparent as you get to the seed stages where you're looking at anything from 50 or 100,000 US dollars to about 500K, right?
Hmm.
That definitely is a huge challenge and hinders the scale for most startups that we have. The unfortunate thing for Zambian startups, I think many investors look at Zambia, a population of about 20, which should be about 24 million, 25 million now. They look at that and like, oh, you're a small country, right?
Mm.
And so for some, they see it as it might not be worth their while investing the amount of money for a seed round, right? 250Ks or 500Ks. But the missed opportunity always there is that, yes, Zambia is a population of about 20 million people. But when you see how we are centered, for those that don't know Zambia, we're somewhere like at the bottom of Africa, somewhere in the center. Yeah, so we have 9 neighbors. We are landlocked, right? With 9 countries around us. And that's where the opportunity lies. We see our neighbors as a whole different market, giving us almost close to 300 million other people that we can sell products. That's a big opportunity, and that's what justifies those ticket sizes, especially for the seed round between 100K to 500K. But there's a massive opportunity as well for the pre-seed round, anything between 20K all the way to 100K. If someone is willing to really work with the startups and help them build products, test quickly in the market with an opportunity for follow-on investment, I think there's some value that can be realized there. Yeah.
What caused that funding gap? Is there any specific reason for it, or that you are having angel network? Why are they only focusing on the ones that can, or you don't need the angels that much anymore?
Yeah. So the major gap, and that's where the angel network comes through. I think now they're even increasing their ticket sizes, average ticket sizes. But the angel network is there now to fill in this gap, and it's only been in existence for like 2 years. I think this should be their third year. I can get the
Mhm.
facts for you, but they should fairly young network. Should be 3 years. So that's what the gap that they're really trying to fill. But before that, what we've had is only banks and micro lending institutions. The
Mhm.
micro lending institutions borrowing capital from a micro lending institution, you're just killing your startup because the interest rates can be as high as 50%, over 50% with some, right? And for banks as well, they do not provide, well, how honest are we supposed to be? Well, they
Say
are
it how it is.
comfortable, okay? They are comfortable. Banks are to be honest, they are comfortable with the types of clients that they have. The big corporates, they're safer, guaranteed returns, right? So why should we be looking to the small guy who's trying to build the ecosystem? But the key concept that everybody forgets is the small businesses of today become the big businesses of tomorrow, right? And so if we can catalyze their growth, we can realize that value with them as they scale and grow, right? So that's where, like I said, the angel network investment, the Zambia Business Angel Network, for example, gets to come into play. Other angel networks have been set up. I do know quite a number of individuals that I hope I can set a meeting with a guest that can join us, who's been leading and playing a key role with the establishment of angel investment networks across Africa. So there's also a larger network called ABAN, the Africa Business Angel Network, right? So there is just this push to say, let's see more local driven capital go to local startups before we can even have a lot more foreign capital coming into our countries to support their growth. So that's the whole mission, and that's what the gaps that we're trying to really fill. Yeah, and I hope that helps.
Yeah, of course. I feel like it always helps if you have more people that are willing to take the risk, and I think it will come with education too. Like educating the investors, the angel investors, like like you said, from small businesses you can get early, can make more profit, and they will grow into big companies. But there's also a bigger risk that they will fail essentially, but they will fail fast and
Absolutely,
cheap. Yeah, so
absolutely, and also, yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
no, I was about to ask, like, how do they people solve it now? Like, this is 2 3 year old engine network, and there are the banks are there
Yeah,
forever who don't give them money. Micro lending kills their business. So, how does average guy with a great idea, a little proven
yeah,
concept, like solves the problem right now?
yeah. I think there's this concept I love. Since we talk about unicorns, right? You know, the
Yeah.
unicorns, $1 billion valuation, which is great, right? But one thing you will find in Africa, and I'm not the pioneer of this, can't remember the gentleman, but he coined the term to describe a startup as a camel, right? In
Hmm.
Africa, you've got camels, and let me explain that, right? Instead of this unique fictitious unicorn that we all want to envision and want a company to get to in terms of valuation, in Africa, you will find camels, right? These are startups that are thriving in very harsh conditions. If you think about a camel, it goes in places where no other animal would go, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Very tough, sandy, sandstorms, very little water, right? But it
Hmm.
has to thrive, and it does thrive and keep thriving year on year. So the same thing happens for African startups. You will see that most of them get to be pushed to become almost profitable in their very early stages. You have to find paying customers from the get-go that support your growth. So you're almost customer funded. But you can
Hmm.
only grow so much if you are going to be customer funded. There's still need for that particular extra capital and push that drives your business forward. So you will see that most startups don't have the luxury of saying, hey, let's raise investment. We'll figure out our business model later, like we have in other markets. Someone with no clear revenue model will raise so much money and then now find themselves in problems. Most startups here, and we encourage them all the time, go and get your validation from the startups. Let your customers pay you because that's what will fuel your growth. If you
Hmm.
find the investment, so right now, most startups have been finding and raising finance from grant financing, wherever they can find the grants from different partners.
Hmm.
Once they reach a certain stage, now we've been seeing a lot more investors, some targeted towards women, some are more general and tailored towards specific sectors. We have seen quite a number of investment firms that are coming up and willing to meet startups at a particular stage once they meet certain validation metrics. So yeah, it's quite rough, but really we do see that we are building camels, and I think camels go a long time. They get to thrive, and if really well supported, they can scale across the entire continent as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that you said it's not just Zambia; it's the 300 million people that live in like sub-Saharan Africa, south of you. So it's once you prove the concept is Zambia, Zimbabwe is next door, Angola, Botswana, Namibia, like all countries to go to, and all of them speak English except Angola, I believe. They have Portuguese.
Angola,
So
Mozambique.
yeah,
Yeah.
Mozambique.
Angola,
So like,
Mozambique. Those
so
are
it's
the
mostly
key needs.
Portuguese and English. No French there, so it's easier for me to get around to.
Congo, you could speak some French in some.
Well, I need still guts to go to Congo first. I need to be be more adventurous for that.
And I trust you. You are quite adventurous. You have been traveling a lot. And tell me about that as you travel. I know the first time we met, I
Mhm.
think that's the first thing that you mentioned about, hey, do you have any other person I can meet, any startups I can talk to? Has that been your approach as you visit the other countries as well to just understand their business landscape?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I try to, like for example, it's always kind of easier to do it in a foreign country when nobody knows you because you have nothing to lose. Essentially, I'm not as let's say if I travel through my country, I'm not gonna like call up random people in other city. Hey, I'm
Mm,
coming for lunch, but I feel like I have
okay.
nothing to lose if I go, let's say, to Zambia or Germany or now Sierra Leone, just to go to LinkedIn, find people who are from that city and send a couple messages. I feel like nothing else can tell you about the country better than people that live in it, work in it, and essentially are creating that country better even for 0.001% every day. So I can
Mm,
read a lot on BBC. I can read a lot about random countries on CNN and so on, but it's usually the bad news that get out, that something is not working, not really look at that success, or this is inspiring, or
yeah.
news of that sort. So I have to say I've been lucky when I was in Zambia that you agreed to meet me for lunch. But there were also other people. Like I met people from Zambia Development Agency. I met from people from UNDP, from local university, and so on. So even from the Czech embassy, that I know is trying really hard to establish more ways how to promote Czech Republic in Zambia. And
Mm,
I know that Zambia is one of the very few countries outside of the European Union that Czech offers sponsored programs to go study at local universities, at least to 1 to 2 people every year. So, like you said, sometimes you need a little kick in the butt to get this going, and I'm trying to
mm,
be even good at it, at this reach out even in my own country. But generally I just do it when I travel. And when I travel in Europe, I never feel like it's that business vibe. If I travel outside of Europe, I
mm.
feel like, oh, I will probably never come back, so I have to make the best out of it. But traveling through Europe is literally, 1 hour there, a 5 hour train there, and you are in different countries all the time. So you are a little bit neglecting that status you have of being connected to other people. So, for example, this past week we created this big conference about how to make entrepreneurship education better in the country. We
Okay.
coordinated it with Czech Invest, which is local, like Zambian development agency. You can imagine it. It's kind of local agency that is in charge of SME startups, promotion of businesses, and kind of wiring the funding
Mm,
from the EU toward the Czech ecosystem.
okay.
And just because I'm this nosy guy, I managed to get introduced to people in the US who are in charge of this data collecting network called the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor. And just because I'm a nosy guy, I discovered that Czech Republic wasn't part of it, as one of the very few countries in Europe for 13 years. So we made sure that we invite people who actually are part of it to come to this conference and tell us that we are doing something wrong if we don't want to collect data about how
Mm,
entrepreneurial people are and how likely they are to start a business. And since a lot of public funding goes into these subjects, I would say, to encourage people to do business, start their ventures, whether small or big. It's kind of important for me to know if those initiatives work or not. So we try
mm,
to push it onto the government to start paying for this research again, so we can have a reliable data. And then maybe next time, Kapval, I can tell you that Czech Republic improved by 5%, that 5 more percent people want to be entrepreneurial. I know that in 2013, it was 8.1% of the Czech population even thought about having a business sometimes. I know they were scared of
mm,
fear of failure, of complete opposite of what you said about starting business being easy, and here it's incredibly hard. Just because
mm,
it's so much paperwork and there is no digitalization almost of the sector. So you always have to go somewhere on foot and be in a line, pay money for it, and you never know when that's going to happen. So we have a lot of challenges, not even as a like starting business in terms of money wise or fundraising or proving the concept, that's sometimes secondary to dealing with the bureaucratic machine. So if you
mm,
adhere to all the laws, you are a lucky guy, and then half of your day is gone, and then the other half you should focus on how to evaluate your business, which
mm,
I feel like it's the inheritance of our old of us being part of an empire back 100 years back,
mm,
where everything had to be bureaucratic because the empire was of like 9 nations speaking all different tongues, and the only thing that bind it all together was the bureaucrat with the paperwork. Uh,
mm,
but we are slowly, but very slowly improving on that. But based on what you said, you guys starting with a clean sheet, clean slate of we can do it however we want to because there is no tradition, maybe tradition from colonialism back then, but it's
mm.
pretty much nothing. You could be okay. Let's do it in one day. What else do you need? And I like that about uh, if you start something from scratch. I like that you can make it easy. You don't have to think about how to twist the system so people are still happy, but you can like, okay, we're gonna do it this way. And how are you
Mm.
gonna do this law? Well, let's do it this way because it makes sense for the people, not what somebody 100 years thought is a good idea.
I hear you.
Uh,
And please tell me about that drop in terms of number of entrepreneurs. Because I was just checking and seeing that you have quite a older median age. And
mhm.
please correct me, your median age is about 43 years
Well,
old.
I would like to. I don't know the number. I just know that
Okay.
this year it will be the first time that number of babies born will be less than 90,000, and people who die every year is 120,000. So we are on birth rate
Wow.
or like dying out. So
Say
that's
that again, please. Let me digest it. Say that again,
yeah.
please. Yeah.
So
So newborns.
newborns will be 90,000. 2025 will be the first year when there will be less than 90,000 babies born, and people dying will be 120,000 and more. So every year we
Wow.
lose 30,000 people in population, and we are a small country too. It's
Wow.
10 million of us, about. So
Yeah.
well, we are medium-sized country for Europe. Worldwide, we are a small country.
Hmm.
And
Correct.
like you said, so people are trying to figure out how to make immigration work,
Hmm.
how to get people here. So for example, last year in June, there were some visa requirements dropped for people from certain countries, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, America. You don't have to have a job when you come. You can find it when you come here. You already have a job permit, kind of thing. So it's just matter of time when this is gonna extend to more and more countries. But
Yeah.
there will be, I think, limited to specializations. Maybe specializations in digital sector, or maybe something else that will be hip at the time. Because another
Yeah.
problem of Europe is that we are super not competitive with America and with China, and I
Hmm.
think European Union Commission and Parliament has like big headache from it, and always trying to figure out how to spark that growth. And essentially, the answer is pretty simple: less regulation. But that's not what they want to hear.
I hear you. I hear you. I mean, that's quite interesting because on our end, has one of the youngest populations in the world. Median age is about should be 16, if not 17 years old.
Holy
So
cow!
that's a very young population. And for us, the challenge now has been that we have so many young people, and what we need then to do is create opportunities for either jobs for them so
Hmm.
that they can sustain themselves and not fall into vices such as crime, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, right? And that's where for us, I think entrepreneurship gets to play a key role. because it's quite sustainable. Whenever you build entrepreneurs, you know that they go on to build more jobs for others, and they get to support and back or contribute towards economic development. And that's why for us, it's important. Africa as well, it's a whole young population across the entire continent. And so that's why for us, it's quite important that we focus on entrepreneurship, we focus on creating jobs and more opportunities for our young people. So it's quite such a
Yeah,
contrast between what you're
it
having right
is.
now in terms of
It's literally the
population.
old and new world, just because we are old
Yeah,
aging population, you guys are the new ones coming up with all the tricks and tips. Uh, what do you think is the
absolutely.
biggest advantage, or like how to engage these, kids essentially, this like youth population? Because I feel like there's so
Yeah.
many of them, you almost cannot work individually with them to make that impact.
Yeah.
So how would you do
On
it?
our end, I think the biggest opportunity that youths get to bring, or value that they get to bring, is the fact that they are a lot more curious, they're a
Hmm.
lot more adaptable, and therefore they have been adopting a lot more digital technology
Hmm.
across the continent. So right now in rural areas, kids just pick up a phone, whichever small feature phone you have, or
Hmm.
now we've seen at least smartphones becoming a lot more affordable. They are able to try out stuff, right? And so you will see platforms like mobile money. For those that don't know, mobile money is just a way of you transferring money through your phone. You don't need a bank account. You can use your actual telco SIM card, and it can sit as bank wallet, right?
Hmm.
But not
Hmm.
necessarily linked to a bank. So all of these technologies are being adopted across rural areas and across urban areas as well. So, and young people are taking them up. So the greatest opportunity and value that they bring is now, because there's so much technological adoption, you can now start building out more products for them. So I'll
Hmm.
give you some context. We're at a stage where I think we're building certain core infrastructure that make digital technologies work. For
Hmm.
example, right now in finance, you will see that we have a lot more fintech startups that have come up over the recent years to just make sure that the infrastructure through which money is transferred is solid and built, right?
Hmm.
That's very important. Other things include like logistics, quite a number of logistics startups that we've seen come up in Zambia and are solving for different things. It could be last mile distribution. It could just be the delivery of parcels and distribution in cities. We
Hmm.
have seen that, and that's very important because when these core infrastructures are built, possibilities for the types of technologies and businesses, digital technologies and businesses we can build is just endless. So that's the stage that we're at, and that's the opportunity that the young people get to
Yeah.
provide for us in Zambia and across Africa as well. But that's
I
not to
think.
say we can't leverage the expertise of the older guys, right? I mean, they do have the experience, so
Hmm.
we
Yeah,
can
don't worry. We
leverage
can
that
send you a few.
experience. Yeah.
We can send you a few older guys down there. But
It
I,
will
I
be an
like.
exchange.
Yeah, exactly. Give us your kids, we'll give you our elderly. I was just thinking when you were saying that the infrastructure of logistics infrastructure is being built up, and the ways how to pay for services, even online, is being
Yeah.
built up. Do you think like it will open the e-commerce sector, like e-shops and stuff like that, to a bigger amount, or to bigger market area? Because that's giant
Yeah.
over here in Czech Republic. We have, I think, the most e-shops per capita or something crazy status.
Mm,
So I'm wondering
mm.
if you see this kind of starting in Zambia as well, with the logistical companies being set up already.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let me point out one startup that we've worked with previously called Online. So one thing that they're doing is they're a logistics company. So they have a platform called Delivery. So you can order from whichever restaurant and they'll fulfill the shipment, right? But what's something cool that they're building is they're building this online warehouse that they claim they're building, and they are building it. So any startup who's starting up an e-commerce, they don't have to think of their own storage or logistics, right? With
Hmm.
Online, they provide this startup who's starting an e-commerce business, the storage and the logistics. So basically, whatever you're doing that side, just do your stuff and we'll fulfill the shipment, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this is more in the logistics space, and it's just promoting e-commerce. There's a huge opportunity. We've seen some companies that are coming up. I was about to mention Yango. I know there's some
Hmm.
controversy there as well. because of their country of origin. But basically, they are now with it's a ride hauling app, but basically with the ride hauling, they have parcel delivery, and they just introduced on their platform a shop, right? Like you
Mm-hmm.
can list your product, buy, and it will be fulfilled. And people now are becoming more open to the aspect of e-commerce, right?
Mm-hmm.
Previously, there were so many scammers in the space. People didn't know what to do, how to report it. And still those exist, but also that just shows the opportunity that's in the market to make it a lot more safer and easier for people to transact. And mobile money as well, like I mentioned, you don't need a bank account. You have a mobile wallet that enables you to transfer. And so right now, telcos are a lot more open, having exposing their APIs that many startups can integrate so that they
Mm-hmm.
get either prompts for easy payments. We actually run a hackathon, sorry, when we run a hackathon for one of the largest telcos in Zambia, MTN.
Mm-hmm.
And again, what we're doing there is just to, the goal is that the telco want to see a lot more use cases and adoption of the APIs. So we bring young, smart people. Hey, what can we do with the API, right? Like, how can we just promote a lot more integration and access to financial services, and young people get to ideate. And so, yeah, there is a large opportunity for e-commerce once these core infrastructures and systems are set in place.
Is it also connected to the regulation? You said like there used to be a lot of scammers. So did the regulation somehow change that people learn how to navigate what website is a scam website, which one is not, or
Yeah.
did it just filter out of the market like naturally?
Still, that's still ongoing, and scammers are not just in country. I think the thing with being digitally connected globally, I think we expose ourselves to scammers from across the world, right? But we do have the Zambia Communication and Technology Authority, that should be ZICTA. I hope I didn't butcher those acronyms. That's ZICTA. Yeah, they are a regulator for technology and everything digital. So they have been putting in quite some work to ensure that there is some level of education around how
Yeah, yeah.
to shop safely, yeah, which is very important, and just regulate this whole space, digital space. So there is definitely effort in place to just ensure that it's a lot safer.
Yeah, my wife got scammed last year shopping for some mixer online, and it looked too good
Oh,
to be
really?
true. So, like, it was our gift for Christmas. But thankfully, we managed to catch it right after the payment, and the bank managed to, based on the screenshots, give us the money back. So that
Okay,
was nice. But like you said, scammers are everywhere. That was the point. But people,
absolutely.
as they get educated, they will start recognizing it a bit better, especially in
Absolutely.
Czech
And it's not
Republic.
just,
Yeah.
it's smart people, right? That get
Yeah, yeah,
scammed. It's not like
exactly.
yeah,
Exactly, it's for anybody, and I would say what helped in Czech Republic, especially with now banks being connected, having your data and so on. Sometimes they send out messages like "Be on the lookout." This is a popular scam people are doing. For example, with driving
mm,
licenses, that they claim that you did something wrong, so they want a fee from you, or posing as something. So I like that this alert system, especially for older people, because they are more prompt to believe these things is in place, and
yeah,
therefore less people are bound to jump on the hook, as they say.
absolutely. I remember a time when my dad came to me. He's like, "Hey, can you help me set up? I won an iPhone. I was the 1000th visitor on this website." I'm like, "Dad, chill. You didn't enter a competition. Like, why
Yeah,
even trying to
exactly.
claim it? Why are you trying to claim it? It's a scam." So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I like what you just mentioned. I think on our end as well, banks are a lot more interconnected now, and there's still a lot more opportunity for them to be a lot more connected and facilitate transaction quickly.
Hmm.
But the mobile money side, just so you know, is not independent or something parallel from the financial system. Mobile money banks are now a lot more integrated. You can send money from your mobile wallets to your bank account very quickly and easily. And this has been growing year on year, like, in
Yeah.
terms of number of
Mhm.
transactions
I have
for
to
that.
say
Yeah.
that's something that surprised me the most when I came to Zambia. I get a Zambian SIM card. I never seen that before
Yeah.
in my life. Like now, the phone talked to me about set up some kind of pin, like get ready
Yeah.
for the transactions, and then the younger drivers wanted me to pay that way. I was like so confused. They
Yeah.
had to laugh at me so hard when I was trying to click 1, 2, 3, how many kwacha to send and so on. But in
Yeah.
the end, you get used to it, and I have to say, in some regard, it's way way easier than paying with your card, let's say, or in certain situations. I wouldn't use it all the time, like going to a shop, buy
Yeah.
groceries. It's still better to use your credit card. But for these payments over, to a driver, to Uber driver, or to send money to my friend, that's, I think, great use there. So I would say that we should end on a happy note. So when do you
Mm,
think we should invite first potential angel investors to read about your mining startups that you mentioned in the beginning? Or is there
mm.
anything else that our listeners should go through? Some kind of startup you're working with or program you're working on that
Yeah.
you recommend people to see or seek out?
Nice, great question. I think firstly, this is exciting. I think I just realized we did already 53 minutes. Oh my
Yeah.
God. So that's pretty exciting. I didn't
Yeah,
think
time
we'll even go
flies.
that far. But I think I wanted to mention that it would be great to also get some feedback from the audience, whoever is listening, even if it's one person, you, one person, please, I'm looking at you. Please give us feedback. We'll appreciate that. What would you
Please,
like to
couple
see?
us dad and my mom to tell us how was it.
Yes, right. They could be the only ones listening. Never know.
Yeah, yeah.
So, we would really love to hear your feedback. What would you like to see us talk about a lot more? But keep in mind, we'll talk a lot more about business and investment in Africa and Europe. More importantly, I think for us, if you mention about something that could be exciting for anyone who's thinking of investing for startups in Zambia, there's a program that we run, which I'm super excited and passionate about, called Mentor Pitch. It's in partnership with it's running in two countries now, Nigeria and Zambia. So we run that in collaboration with a company called TVC Labs and BongoHive and also the Zambia Business Angel Investment Network. The beauty about the program is this. We only take 5 startups. It's more of an accelerated 12 weeks program. We only take 5 startups. Angel investors get to commit $1,000 to be part of that program. And for 12 weeks, so right now we had, if I'm not wrong, we had 7 or 10 investors in that program. Yeah. And for 12 weeks, I do not train the startups or anyone from the entrepreneurship team, right? The investors get to guide the startups over a period of 12 weeks. So one topic could be on technology. We could be talking about people. We could be talking about business models. It almost gives you an opportunity to vet a startup for 12 weeks before you can even make an investment decision.
Mhm.
And at the end of the 12 weeks, the investors decide which is their favorite startup and they collaborate and co-invest either in one or all of them. They just split the investment across the startups, but it's mainly up to them. So that's an exciting program. Let me know. We're currently midway, if not past midway through its implementation, but the next cohort which will be coming up next year. So that's something exciting, and you can let us know if you're interested in that. But also let
And
us know who you'd like to see on the program as well. Yeah,
and anybody can join the startup from anywhere in the world. This program, not the startups, but as an investor.
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Anyone can join the program, but you just have to commit the time. Like we said, we want to. It's called mentor pitch for a
Mhm.
reason. It's not just about the investment, but are you able to mentor the entrepreneur that you are going to potentially invest in?
Mhm.
And the value of having investors outside of Zambia, uh, um, we want the startups to also see the potential of them expanding to other similar markets, right? We're not just looking at Zambia. If you're from Kenya, if you're from Europe, and you have experience in different markets, is there a way that the solutions that they're working on can be scaled to that particular country? And I think if you have a business coach who's even an investor, I think that creates an opportunity for them to even scale. So that's the other beauty of having partners from other different countries to bring in those perspectives. Yeah.
Great. I will take a look myself. Maybe I can become one of those investor mentors. I would like that. Uh,
Why haven't you joined already, Martin?
I don't know. We had to
What?
record a podcast first to tell you for you to tell me. So, Kapila, where can people find you?
Where can you find me? I'm very active on LinkedIn, just Kawela Malupande. Yeah, if you go in other social media platforms, you will find me in a different form and shape. Maybe I'll be doing a YouTube video about my running. You never know. But reach out on LinkedIn. I think I'm very responsive there as well. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you to our audience today. And we encourage you to stay tuned. Second episode will be coming soon. Uh, Take care and have a great day, everybody.